Hello there, it's Silver, and this is Metalbringer. This is the sequel to Samurai Bringer, and it takes the form of a pretty frantic roguelite where you get to stomp little robots with a much bigger robot. The idea is your character has been in cryosleep for 1,000 years. After waking up, she decides to strike out into the world and try to figure out what happened to all the humans. You'll be controlling a type of android soldier called a labor. You can fully customize it, equip it with whatever you have unlocked, and even change the color of all the various parts. While out exploring, you'll come across enemy labors by the hundreds and have to cut your way through them to progress. There are also things called arms. These are big machines that your labor pilots. You'll find pieces of arms that you can fit together to build a workable machine, and also sometimes have to fight them yourself. This will all culminate in a battle with something called a gigant arm, which is a giant machine boss battle. After beating the boss, you'll move on to the next biome and do it all again. The whole time, you'll be trying to make yourself stronger, and also unlock blueprints for more stuff back at base. It ends up being a relatively simple gameplay loop, where the complexity comes from the builds you create and the extra improvements you can work towards. In terms of how the game looks and sounds, I'm a big fan. The art style it's using looks really cool. It's got this super colorful and stylized look to everything, with a kind of heavy pixelation filter on top of all that. It gives the game this kind of crunchy look, with a heavy emphasis on making all details look chunky. When it's not in motion, like in screenshots, it almost looks like it could be 2D, but once things start moving, you realize there's a lot of depth to the environments. Environmental elements have a lot of detail, which causes each area to look quite different, and things like machines and structures are even more detailed up close. It gives the art kind of a Greebly effect, where every element on screen could easily catch your eye, and various stationary pieces of the areas stand out with loads of visual components. Even simple stuff like the cryopod you wake up from is quite detailed, and has several elements to its design that make it look neat. Once you get out into the open and see things like tall buildings and neighborhoods and all that, you'll see how dense the game is with the way it accents its style. Labors and arms share the high level of visual chunkiness with the environments. The style looks especially good on things that move, in my opinion. Labors, both yours and the enemies, have this adorable big-headed style that's kind of like if Chibi were bigger and more detailed. The weapons are greebly and exaggerated, which helps to be able to identify them quickly to know how much of a threat any given enemy is. Hordes of enemies just look like this sea of big heads marching around, and their animations are also kind of blocky, which actually makes them stand out a little more. Some labors, including your own, can also have glowing bits on them, depending on what parts they're equipped with. This turns the combat into a rave where all these glowy elements are flailing around in the crowd. Arms, on the other hand, don't look goofy, but instead look really cool. I'm just a huge sucker for mechs in general, so obviously I'm going to appreciate the giant robots you can climb into. The various pieces that make up arms share that high-detail greebly look that the environments go for. Legs and treads have an almost Armored Core-like look, and the various heads can be anything from sleek and futuristic to boxy and industrial. The weapons are all huge and lock to the arms in a way that looks cool. And overall, it reminds me of like mid-2000s Gundam and Zoids action figures. There are also arms that are literally construction equipment. These look even more blocky and industrial, obviously, than the rest, with great color schemes to match and are much less sci-fi looking than the combat robots. The game also uses ray tracing. Interestingly enough, we don't often see ray tracing in indie titles, since it often goes along with very expensive and highly realistic graphic styles. But in this case, they're using it in a really smart way, and that's for environmental lighting. Because of their interesting real-time pixel art generation that makes for super detailed areas, having ray trace lighting across them actually adds quite a bit to making them look unique. It creates the last element the graphics need to look super sci-fi, and I think it was a very smart inclusion to tie together the environments. So the game has a fantastic art direction that looks nice and unified, importantly, across all the various things in the world. So how about its sound? Well, weapon impacts and explosions make up the bulk of what you'll be hearing, and they're pretty satisfying. Smacking dudes with a huge sword has a nice metallic impact to it, and ranged weapons, while quieter than melee weapons, still have a fun sci-fi pew-pew to go along with them. The sound can get pretty messy in big skirmishes, but in this case the explosions are powerful sounding enough to sort of punctuate the action. The collection sound for all the coins is also oddly satisfying to hear, being reminiscent of a classic arcade 1-up kind of sound. The music, though, works a little bit differently. It's got this 16-bit chiptune kind of vibe. It reminds me of a lot of Sega Genesis music. It sounds super clear and upbeat with a great variety of tones to shift between to make a wide open sound. It creates this driving force that spurs you on and makes you want to do well to hear more of it. You could say the 16-bit grit of the music matches well with the art style. The music is also dynamic, interestingly. It changes depending on what exactly is happening around you. In safe areas like the home base, it's slow and kind of droning, giving it a relaxed vibe that goes well with contemplating what parts to use. During combat, it gets more of a beat going, with the tempo increasing. When arms show up, it gets even faster and has kind of a danger siren vibe, making the music sound much brighter, along with being more upbeat. During boss fights, it actually goes a little slower and gets much darker and sinister sounding, reminding me a bit of Mega Man boss music. Overall, I'd say the music is a truly standout part of the presentation, along with its pretty unique visual style. Gameplay-wise, you'll start off by constructing a labor. You can choose a head, a body, and one weapon for each arm. You can't change these mid-run, so spend some time if you need and build something you like. Then you'll head off into the first area, which is a downtown type of place with lots of grid streets and tall buildings. Loads of enemy laborers will spawn and generally be in your way, and killing them drops these coins you can use for a few things. While wandering around, you may come across some pieces of an arm, like a pair of treads or a tank head. These are often a really good idea to climb into and use as long as you can. They take damage for you and greatly extend your survivability. Enemy arms will also start spawning eventually. These are tough opponents, especially if you're just a little big-headed android, but destroying them will sometimes drop some of their parts for you to use. This is basically the only way to build a full arm with both arm weapons and such. If you're really lucky, the enemy will just fall out of it, letting you commandeer the complete mech right then and there. As you take down enemies, sometimes they'll drop discs called app discs. These represent a large variety of passive effects you can use. Simply pick one up to activate it. Several of them get better if you pick up duplicates. Others are one and done. They come in various rarities denoted by the color of their text, and there's no reason not to pick up basically all of them you see. When you die, you lose all the discs you have equipped, although you are paid for each one depending on rarity. However, while exploring, you'll find these disc shops marked with a blue floppy symbol. You can buy and sell them here, but the main feature is analysis. When you analyze a disc, you pay an amount of coins based on the rarity of it, and then you'll get a full description that tells you exactly what it does. This isn't always clear by the name, so analyzing them also unlocks them back at base, allowing you to start your run equipped with any of the discs you've analyzed so far, including doing it multiple times for equipping duplicates from the start. There are a bajillion different discs to find, so this adds quite a bit of run variety to the game, and also a build variety once you start analyzing them all. You can only equip so many when starting at home base though, but the limit expands quite high as you use the meta progression. You'll also find repair shops marked with an orange wrench. These are pretty important once you get a good number of coins to spend. All arms parts will slowly take damage from use, as well as taking damage anytime they're hit. You can use coins to repair the damage at these shops, extending your lifeline. However, you can also analyze the parts at these shops. This is expensive to do, but doing it will fully repair them. It'll also unlock them back at base, allowing you to start the run with an arm instead of having to jack one from someone first. Eventually, while exploring, you'll come across a boss arm who wants to beat you up. Destroy them and you'll get a bunch of coins and maybe some good parts to use sometimes. Then head down to face your first Gigant arm, a big boss with plenty of attacks to learn and a nasty habit of doing crap loads of damage to you very quickly. Beat them and you can move on to the next area type and repeat the process. Things will get noticeably harder as you go, of course, with more arms spawning more often, and enemy damage skyrocketing. About all those coins you've been picking up. You can use them in run at shops, as I mentioned, but when you die, the amount you are carrying will be cut in half. Then an amount will be added to that number based on all the discs you were holding when you died. This total will then be given to you to take back to home base, and this is where the meta progression comes in. It's called OS tuning, and allows you to spend coins to level up a wide variety of different stats to improve yourself over time. You can do the obvious thing and spend them on extra HP and defense, but you can also go for various other things. You could improve your weapon handling, say, for any weapon type in the game, making you stronger with that particular type. You can improve various damage types or reduce the damage that arms parts take, maybe even improve your battery capacity, allowing you to attack more. You'll notice that each thing you can improve is a meter that you fill up. That's because just by using the relevant thing in a run, these meters will fill up on their own, reducing the price you need to pay it to level up. If you wait long enough, they can even level up by themselves just from use. Although, not all of these can do that, and some are very slow at it. Something else to note is that after a Gigant Arm boss battle, there'll be a little portal-looking thing in the floor. You can use this to access the OS tuning menu mid-run. That way you can invest all of your current coins into it, rather than just getting half when you die. This is a really solid implementation of meta progression, in my opinion. I like that they can improve over time on their own, and also just how many possible things there are to improve. Considering the game has a focus on build variety due to its various building systems, it makes sense that the main system of progression would also be hugely varied. Combat is very action RPG infused, with loads of colorful damage numbers popping up. Crits can happen, as well as even more powerful versions if you shield break an enemy. First, you have to worry about your battery as well as your heat when firing. These will limit what you can do a bit. Your labor has a single heat gauge for both weapons, but arms will have a separate heat gauge for each one that's equipped. If you keep attacking, they will eventually overheat. Although you can still fire, if you want, it'll just start to hurt you every time. They can also overcool, interestingly. I don't know exactly what causes this, but they basically freeze in place for a bit and can't be used. There are also some ideas here that are unusual for the genre. For one, there are puzzles dotted around the area that you can solve for a chest full of coins. Interrupting your slaughter to do a block pushing puzzle is kind of funny, but it's an effective way to add some more gameplay in there that's optional but useful. Another neat idea is that if you don't feel ready for the next big boss, you don't actually have to fight them yet. Usually in this genre, the boss is here, whether you like it or not. But in this game, after you defeat the named arm at the end of a zone, there'll be a door down to the big boss in the next zone, but there are also doors at the edges of the map to continue doing this zone. So you can decide to do another circuit of this area if you want to gather more things, and then you'll encounter another named arm to fight, and you can make the decision again there. This is pretty cool because it lets you farm up for as long as you want or rush straight to the boss. Metalbringer is a pretty fantastic entry into the genre that does a few things differently and basically everything well. Its striking visual style draws the eyes, but the highly customizable runs with loads of build variety are what make you stay. This game understands that variety is key in this genre, and so it hits you with a ton of it, all the way down to the meta progression being just as colorful as your part choices. I'll put the link down below so you can check out the Steam page if you like. I think the game justifies its price very well. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.